Alright, so today is not about making more modifications to the bike, which I think I want to do a couple more, but for now I'm just gonna spend some time actually doing some maintenance to the bike. So this bike I haven't changed the coolant since I bought it, which normally you're supposed to do it every 2 years, so I'm actually kind of like 2 years behind. I haven't had any issues. I haven't seen the bike like acting weird, or maybe the fan coming on early than usual, but still it's something that you have to do. I don't want to get into like specifically on what coolants you're going to be using, or one detail that I'm going to mention is I know there's some like super coolant that Suzuki rates for I think it's like 32,000 miles, or I think it's something close to like 4 years that you don't have to change it. I don't know what I have because I don't know what the dealer put in my motorcycle when I bought it, so I'm just gonna replace it right now. So I'm just gonna be replacing it with engine ice. You can pick the one you rather use for your motorcycles that fits your price point and your use. In my case, I will be potentially just going to the track at some point once they open back up. So I would love to ride have a coolant that if something were to happen with my bike and there's any spillage or I start spilling any coolant, I know I'm not going to be messing the track for some other people, just leaving some of the greasy stuff that you get with the green one. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it. For this specific bike, all you need is a 5mm, at least just to get the fairing off, so you can get access to the reservoir, as well as the and then a screwdriver, just so you can get access to the hose, because there's no petcock. So you have to remove the hose so you can completely drain your system out. So one thing I'm going to mention is after I drain the coolant, I'm just going to run water, the ionized water, through the system just so I can get it all out. This is not the way you have to do it. This is the way I do it. So please just don't use it necessarily as a only way to do it, but as a way to do it. So if you have a better way, put it in the comments, and I might be learning something from you. All right, cool, awesome. Let's get to it. Alright, something I didn't mention is, since I will be replacing the entire coolant, I also want to remove whatever is in the reservoir. I just remove these 10mm. And in case you're wondering, hey Richard, wouldn't it have been easier just to remove that hose at the bottom? Yeah, sure. But at the same time, it will have taken so long for me to do that. And get rid of all the coolant that I might as well just do it a little faster. Alright, so that's just like hand tight. So I'm going to do now is just put some water in it. So something else that I forgot to mention is that it will be very easy to remove this fairing, which I think it's applicable for both S1000 as well as S1000F, just so you can get access to the radiator cap. So the color of the coolant looks okay, but geez, I thought that was, there's so much like trash, like sediments and like debris on that coolant. So I'm super happy that I'm actually doing this right now. Alright, so now I'm just going to be removing this one right here, which seems like this is the water pump, so it seems like this is the lowest point. And I'm just gonna undo this. I'll try to be as careful as possible. You can see it, coolant coming up. I don't want to make a mess, but it's inevitable. get this out of the way. Woo! Mess, mess, mess. I think this is a lesson for you guys. Do not do what I did. I was super confident that I had enough space in here just to accommodate all the coolant, so I guess I was not correct. So I'm just gonna do this and see if there's anything else in the system. It seems like we probably got almost everything out. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to tighten this just to add some pressure and make sure that it's not gonna come off. So I'm just gonna add water to the reservoir, and I'm just gonna add water to the system. I'm gonna turn my motorcycle on, and I'm just gonna have water running through the system, and I'm just gonna come out, repeat this process. Well, we'll have to be careful because now it's gonna be hot. So I'm just gonna potentially repeat this process maybe 2-3 times until I see the water is actually coming out super clear, and at that point I know I have everything out and I can just go ahead and add my engine ice. All right, so this is the third bottle I am putting in the radiator. So one thing I wanted to mention is doing the math. I checked the owner's manual and it says that the bike has a capacity of, I think it's like 3 quarts or 2.8 liters. So by looking at this engine ice, you'll see the engine ice is 1.89 liters. So I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be short, but I will let you guys know if I'm short, because what I'm going to do is then I'm not going to be adding any water, because water is just going to dilute it and it's going to make it less efficient. So I'm just going to go ahead and buy another bottle. So system is full of water. So now what I'm going to do is just turn on the bike, let the bike get to operating temperature while it's idling in here. When it gets to operating temperature, it's gonna open the thermostat, and the thermostat is gonna allow water to run through the system. So once done that, and it gets to the operating temperature, I'll be keeping an eye on the radiator. So I'm just gonna keep the cap loose for a while until I see the water running. And the reason why I want to do that is because I'm going to notice that I'm just going to have to add more water, because I'm going to stop seeing water, and I want to make sure that air is not going to continue to move through the system, because then it's just going to be creating a hot spot in certain areas. So I just want to fill it up. Most important thing is, after the water runs through the system, I'm just going to turn it off, and I'm just going to let it cool off before I come back and open the radiator. All right, be very cautious with that. Alright, so here what I'm trying to do is just to so I'm monitoring how the water is behaving. So I'm expecting, the water level to go down as the water continues to go through the different crevices in the radiator and the actual cooling system. So you will tell in a couple seconds that water is not, the water is going to turn blue. So that means that we got to the point where the thermostat actually opened. So now the actual water is circulating through the system. So that's perfect. That means maybe you can just put the cap on, you can just leave it running for a while, and at that point you know that the system is starting just to mix up with water, and you are in a place where you just need to let it cool off, and you can start draining and starting to get more of start the process of just getting all that coolant out. Went down. That means thermostat opened, and that's when it started running, and then blue coolant actually started making its way out. So that's how we saw it. So now I'm just gonna turn on the fan, eat a snack, and maybe come back in like maybe 10-15 minutes after the fan's been running in the motor, and just like cooling out the radiator and the coolant, and we should be ready to do phase number 2. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is, it's been like half an hour at least. So what I want to do is just to check the temperature was at the third line. So now it's at the second one. I already like, you know, started touching the radiator, and I had the fan running for the half hour. So I mean, at this point, you wouldn't be able to, like, you know, hold it for this long if it was like super hot. So I'm just gonna, I feel pretty confident that I can just like open it. So you can always put a rag on top just in case there's any, you know, coolant just coming out, just so you're careful. I'm just gonna walk away from it a little bit still. Okay, so it's open, nothing happened. As soon as you can tell that definitely was running a little bit low. So now let's just go on this side and drain it. So this is when you have to be super careful, and the reason being is that coolant is gonna be hot, so it's not gonna be, you know, just cold like before. To learn from our mistakes, now I have two. So something that I wanted to show is, you see those like particles at the bottom? That's what's inside my coolant, which, you know, if that's, you know, going through all the passages, I'm pretty happy that I'm actually getting rid of all that. Let's just, all right, fine. Yeah. I'm gonna change it. Whoa. I'm sure you can do better. So as you can tell, there was a lot of coolant still in the system, which means that we have to do this and potentially a third time. So I mean, people sometimes they neglect to do this stuff because it takes time. That's what it takes. All right, so this is the results of flush number 2. While I was waiting for the engine to cool off, I started putting this. I know this is not a approved coolant type of like recipient or whatever, so I'm just gonna take it to my local place just to recycle. So in the meantime, I just want to make sure that it's labeled, just so people don't, you know, make sure that they're not gonna drink it. My kids are just gonna randomly just come to the garage and drink some coolant, maybe. Whoa, more blue than I thought. Takes time. That has a lot of blue and still in it. You can tell that it's not as oily, so there's a lot of water also in here, which is good. But you know that we have to do it at least one more time. Hopefully not 2 more, but at least 1 more time. All right, flush number 3, and hopefully the last one. Oh. Alright, yeah, it's a little blue, but this is definitely the last one. I know you guys can feel the texture, or not the texture, but you guys can tell that it is or not oily, but as you can see, this is pretty much water. Like if this has any like oils in it, my fingers will be like, you know, sliding or whatever, and it's just water. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna put some water through the system right now. Just a tiny bit. To push any coolant out, okay? And of course, I know this is not running through the entire system. This is just pushing straight from the radiator out. But it's a good way to at least just, you know, get excess out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it on, like turn the bike on, and I'm just gonna continue like adding water through it, and that's just gonna make the system, just to, you know, put it through the system, and that's just gonna take the last part of it. right, so the last thing I'm going to do is just to, of course, this is cold now, so I'm just gonna put my hand here, and I'm just gonna make like a circle. And what I'm going to do is just to use air just to push any liquid that probably is still in the system. This is not gonna necessarily just run through every hose or maybe just inside of the head or whatever, but at least it's just gonna pressurize and it's gonna pull or push anything that's out. Okay, so I'm just gonna put the camera on the other side so you guys can see what this is gonna do. Alright, so in here I'm really just putting a little bit of pressure with air. I'm actually not blasting 130 psi's out. I'm just applying a little bit just so I can kind of like imitate like you were putting your mouth on the mouth of the radiator and then pushing air. So I just didn't want to put my mouth on the radiator cap, so I just decided just to do it with the hose. You don't have to do it. This is not required. This is just me just taking advantage of the stuff that I have on hand. Now I'm finally going to put the hose back for the last time, and just gonna tighten this up. It's important because if not, this is where it's gonna start leaking. Another important step is to, for the last time, just take the reservoir out, because I filled it up with water just in case when I was cycling the water through the system it needed any water or have some pressure in the system. So I just wanted to put some in here. So before I put all the engine ice in the straight in the radiator, I'm just gonna go ahead and put a little bit on the reservoir as well. Remember that I told you that chances are I'm gonna need more than just one container. So now I'm just gonna put this back with the bolt. It's right on the line, so I'm expecting that if the system has any air pockets, it's just gonna start to pull coolant from the reservoir. I'm gonna run it for a second because as you can tell, it's not a whole lot, but like normally you might want the system to be filled between these two lines. Between these two lines, and I have way more, so I'm expecting this to go back into the system as soon as there's an air pocket and I can start releasing some of the air. So in case you're wondering, how am I gonna do that is by kind of not repeating the process. I'm not gonna remove this coolant anymore, but when the bike is cold, I'm just going to be opening this one right here and the air is just gonna come out. Turn it on right now, just get it until the thermostat opens and start to get some of that air out, and see if I can get some of this coolant pull into the system instead of just staying on the reservoir. Alright, so it just happened. So 1 can of engine ice is not enough for this bike. So what I did is, if you remember correctly, I had the level, this is full, this is the lineup full, and this is the F, so the level was like maybe somewhere around here, so I was expecting to go down. So what I did was I let it idle for maybe, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes. I let it cool off for another 10, and then I opened the cap. I didn't hear any noises of air just coming out of whatever, but okay. And then I started the bike with the cap off, and with the cap off, I revved the bike a little bit, just I don't know, a couple times. And when I did that, that just forced the some of the air just to bubble up. And I put the cap on, I let it idle for 2 more minutes, and I was just taking it for a spin. And before I went out, I realized the system already went ahead and grabbed everything from the reservoir. So chances are Right now, maybe the level it's okay, but it's too hot for me to open right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just gonna let it get cold to check the level on the radiator. But anyway, I need to add more to the system, to the reservoir, because that's if I don't add the reservoir, then the system is gonna get pressurized and just gonna start pulling from the reservoir. And if there's nothing there, then it's just gonna be pulling air. So it's just gonna be creating some like pockets, air pockets in the system, and that's exactly what you don't want, because then you're just gonna have times where the temperature is going to go up, then temperature is going to go down, because you continue to have those, air pockets in the system. So lesson learned. Enginized, even though I was feeling lucky that I was going to be able to make it happen, but honestly, no, it was not going to happen. So the system takes 3/4, so you're going to need maybe 2 of those, or maybe 1 1/4, 1 1/2, something like that. So I'm just going to order a second one. I'm not going to ride the bike, of course, until I get more. So I'm just going to fill up the reservoir. And when I fill it up, I'm just gonna continue to idle and maybe ride the bike for a couple times, and until I see that I don't see the level of the reservoir actually going up and down. And once I see the reservoir getting stabilized, where I don't see that it's actually ranging from like, fuel too low, whatever. When I stop seeing that and I see it very consistent, then I'm just gonna open up the radiator cap to make sure that I have all that I don't have all the capacity. And if I don't have any, I'm just gonna add a tiny bit. I'm just gonna close it, and then I'm just gonna continue to monitor. And at that point, you can call it good. Cool. So hopefully this was good. Hopefully like 80% or maybe 90% of what I did today, it's applicable to any bike. So this is not just to GSXs, but there may be that other 80% or 20% that is specific to this bike. But I mean, that honestly, this is about how you will do it if your bike doesn't have a petcock, and if your bike doesn't have a way to bleed the air out of the system. So hopefully that was helpful. If you have any questions or suggestions for me in the future, leave them in the comment, and I appreciate all the comments you guys are leaving me. Thank you for the feedback and for the support. I really very much appreciate it. So thank you. Bye bye.